Now, we just spoke about the Woodward tapes and how they show, without a doubt, that the president blatantly downplayed COVID to we, the American public, while at the same time admitting to Woodward that it was deadly and very contagious. It all comes as the search for a vaccine obviously is ongoing. And of course, this does not happen in a vacuum. Politics at play even there. President saying we could have one by Election Day, even October. Well, today on Capitol Hill, the Surgeon General spoke about that while testifying before a Senate committee.
I want the American people to hear me say this. There will be no shortcuts. This vaccine will be safe, it will be effective, or it won't get moved along. And when a vaccine is either approved or authorized by the FDA, I and my family will be in line to get it.
At the same hearings, the head of the NIH also testified, and he was asked about AstraZeneca ending a late-stage clinical trial because one of the participants in it got sick.
The reason that we're investing not in one but 6 different vaccines is because of the expectation that they won't all work, although it would be lovely if they did. To have a clinical hold, as has been placed on AstraZeneca as of yesterday because of a single serious adverse event, is not at all unprecedented. This certainly happens in any large-scale trial.
Now, the big drug companies, they're banding together, and they're trying to make sure that the process is not rushed and the shot will be safe when it came out. Somewhat unprecedentedly, 9 vaccine makers have signed a pledge promising to uphold ethical standards and make sure the vaccine won't become available until it's safe and effective, a pushback of sorts. Plus, Dr. Anthony Fauci, he's speaking out about just the latest Trump rally, this one in Winston-Salem, North Carolina last night, where people, as you can see, packed the bleachers. There wasn't any social distancing and hardly a mask in sight.
The president continues to hold these massive rallies where people are not wearing masks, including the president himself. When you see that, what do you think? Is it frustrating to you as an expert in this?
Well, yes, it is, and I've said that often. That situation is we want to set an example.
I want to bring in our guest, Dr. Julie Morita. She's Executive Vice President of the Robert Wood Foundation, also former Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Health. I got to start off, Doctor, where I didn't think I would once we got some of the excerpts of the Woodward book. The president knew the dangers of COVID, yet he kept not only downplaying them to the public, but mocked people for wearing masks. I can't think in my lifetime of such a dereliction to duty as it relates to public health coming from all places, our own White House. I mean, I got to imagine even you, who's somebody inured to this stuff, have to be shocked by what you learned.
So I think the key thing from my perspective is that we know that COVID is a serious disease and it leads to people being hospitalized, many people being hospitalized, many people dying. It's a serious disease. We also know that wearing masks helps prevent spread of disease. And so we really need to pay attention to those facts. The disease is serious. We need to take this seriously. We need to do physical distancing, standing 6 feet apart from people, wearing our masks, washing our hands. All these kinds of things will keep us healthy, will keep us safe. And so really it's a matter of acknowledging the facts, and we know what the facts are.
Doctor, let's get to the vaccine. The president's made it clear he wants this thing out sooner than later. The impact, we're prepared to even bypass certain protocols. But we saw pushback from 9 of the biggest pharma companies who would be doing the manufacturing and distributing, who said, we're going to wait until this thing's safe. I heard the testimony today. Are you comfortable that when the public is presented with a vaccine, that in effect will be safe, or are you concerned that politics potentially could be at play?
So we have a long history of success with vaccines. In fact, vaccines are celebrated as among the top public health achievements in the 20th century. So we have children get 17 vaccines routinely. And in order for those vaccines to be licensed and recommended, there are critical steps that need to occur to ensure that a vaccine works and that it's safe and that we can deliver it appropriately. And those steps are being followed at this point. There's the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. And those things have to be in place. And then once those vaccines make it through that process, there's advisory groups that look at what the data are and the evidence are before a recommendation is for licensure of a vaccine. And then there's a whole other phase of data review and recommendations for who should actually get it and who should be prioritized. What I'd like to see is that those steps are followed and followed carefully. As much as I'd love to see a vaccine available tomorrow, I think what we have to do is make sure that this appropriate steps are taken so that the vaccine is safe and effective when it becomes available.
You've seen the poll numbers where there has been not a subtle but almost precipitous drop in terms of public confidence of this vaccine. And usually, doctor, it's the anti-vaxxers that won't take the vaccine, but the drop, a lot of it's attributed to this fear of the politicization of it, this rush job to get it out because of the political calendar. I'm worried about two things. I'm worried about that when this vaccine's ready, that we can actually trust the people that are saying it's ready. But I'm worried about a whole fear now where science and medicine that have been attacked by this White House for so long, that now other vaccines that we took as granted that people took, they're going to be looking with a side eye at it as well. How worried are you as a physician here that we could be going backwards in time where vaccines for diseases we thought we have cured could be cropping up again because people won't take things?
So what we're seeing is that that some people had hesitated to get the vaccines, routine vaccines, at the peak of the earlier part of the pandemic. And that's not so much because they were concerned about the safety of the vaccine, but because they were concerned about getting healthcare services. And so it really is important for parents of young children to take their children in for their routine immunizations, because the last thing that we need to see is epidemics of measles or chickenpox or whooping cough on top of COVID. So having the routine vaccines is really important. As we're heading into the fall with flu season coming, getting a flu vaccine now is a great idea so that we can actually minimize the respiratory illnesses that are happening and unburden the healthcare system. So these kinds of vaccines are really important. The vaccines that we have in place that have been licensed and recommended for years have long track records of safety and effectiveness. And so those vaccines need to continue to be administered routinely, and healthcare providers should be making them available to their patients so that we don't get behind and children remain protected instead of being at risk for COVID as well as these other diseases.
Doctor, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And up next, an update on those devastating wildfires as they continue to spread in the Northwest and devastating in particular California.